Nobody believed me at first, and honestly, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, if I didn't have the footage burned into my phone like a scar, I might not have believed it either. Because when you grow up thinking your land is sacred, that fences mean something, that neighbors at least pretend to respect lines drawn by sweat and history. The idea that a stranger in luxury hunting gear could walk onto your ranch and pull a trigger feels too stupid, too cruel, too unreal to process in one breath. My name is Ethan Caldwell. I'm 42 years old, a widower, and I raised my 16-year-old daughter Mara Caldwell on Caldwell Ridge Ranch, a spread of just over 500 acres tucked into the Montana foothills not far from Silver Peak National Preserve, land my grandfather broke with his hands. My father defended with stubborn pride, and I tried to protect by simply minding my business and doing honest work. We're known around the state for our breeding program, but the heart of it all was one bull, Orion, a national champion, valued at over $250,000, a walking future made of muscle, bloodline, and years of careful work. And to outsiders he was an asset, a number, a trophy waiting to be monetized. But to us he was family, because Mara raised him from a calf, bottle-fed him before school, brushed him before shows, talked to him when she thought no one was listening, and because my late wife Lydia Caldwell believed, long before cancer took her, that this bull would secure our family's future. Lydia was the dreamer, the one who pushed me to think bigger, who said if we wanted Mara to inherit more than fences and stories, we needed something solid, something undeniable. And when Orion won his first championship ribbon, Lydia cried in the stands, sick but smiling, knowing she'd planted something that would outlive her. And every time I watched that bull stride across the pasture, head high, powerful and calm, I felt like part of my wife was still standing there with us. Life was quiet, predictable in the way ranch life always is. Broken fences, early mornings, the occasional argument over water rights that usually ended with coffee and a handshake. Until 2 years ago when the neighboring land went bankrupt and was sold to developers who carved it into a luxury community called Ravenwood Bluffs, a place built for people who wanted the look of Montana without the dirt under their nails. At the center of that development sat the Ravenwood Bluffs Association, run by Camilla Price, a former East Coast real estate executive who arrived with polished smiles, designer boots, and the confidence of someone who believes rules are tools meant for other people. And the first time I met her, at a county fair where we were showing cattle, she called our ranch an interesting operation, the word operation rolling off her tongue like an insult wrapped in silk. I tried to be civil. I ignored the HOA letters complaining about the visual impact of livestock and hay bales on their scenic views, because this was Montana, not a curated suburb. But Mara noticed things I didn't, her camera catching Camilla pacing our creek line, measuring, writing, watching our land like a chessboard, and I should have paid attention sooner. Because one April morning, just after sunrise, I heard a single gunshot echo from the direction of the creek, a sound that doesn't belong near barns or pastures. And when I ran toward it, heart hammering, I found Orion on the ground, blood pooling beneath his shoulder, breathing hard, alive but shattered. And in that moment, something inside me broke clean in two. I called Dr. Allison Moore, our local veterinarian, and the sheriff's office while pressing cloth against muscle and whispering promises I didn't know how to keep. And when Mara arrived on her ATV and collapsed beside him, crying and then forcing herself to focus, I knew this wasn't just about a wounded animal. It was about someone deciding that what we loved was disposable. Sheriff Daniel Reeves arrived late and skeptical, because we had history, because authority often mistakes familiarity for guilt, and he suggested poachers, shrugged at the shell casings until I showed him the high-end ammunition, the imported boot prints leading back toward Ravenwood Bluffs, the torn scrap of expensive fabric caught on my fence, and he wrote it down without enthusiasm, promising to look into it. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Frank Nolan, an old rancher whose remaining parcel was surrounded by the development, a man too stubborn to sell, who'd been quietly documenting HOA behavior for years, and his text said everything in one line. She's selling hunting rights on your land. Attached was a glossy brochure advertising an exclusive private hunting experience across 700 acres, priced at $25,000 per person, and I felt my stomach drop when I realized Ravenwood Bluffs only covered 200 acres. The rest was mine. meaning Camilla Price had sold access to my ranch like she owned it. As Dr. Moore explained, the surgery would be expensive, risky, and might end Orion's breeding career, my anger crystallized into something colder, sharper, because this wasn't an accident, it was theft wrapped in paperwork. The months that followed were brutal, sleepless nights in a padded stall we built ourselves, antibiotics every 6 hours, dressings twice a day, Mara designing rehab plans from agricultural journals, rigging slings to support a bull that once dominated arenas, and every small victory felt enormous. The first time he stood, the first time he walked, the first time he scratched his back against his favorite tree like nothing had ever happened. Neighbors came by, some from Ravenwood Bluffs, uncomfortable, ashamed, bringing treats and quiet apologies, while HOA letters escalated into threats, inspections, fines, and then a lawsuit accusing me of trespassing on my own land, assigned to Judge Arthur Lowell, a man known to golf with County Zoning Director Marcus Hale, the same official who approved sudden, updated boundary maps that swallowed half my pasture. That's when I called Thomas Reed, a retired land attorney who knew Montana property law like scripture, and when he reviewed the documents and Mara's recordings, his face went dark, because this wasn't a misunderstanding, it was fraud, carefully constructed and politically protected. We dug deeper, trail cameras catching Camilla and Marcus Hale inspecting our boundary at night, Mara tracing social media posts from a wealthy New York hunter named Leonard Cross, whose designer boots matched the prints by Orion. And when Camilla tried to intimidate my daughter with criminal complaints over computer trespass, after Mara accessed HOA emails left open on a public terminal, something snapped in me for good. Sheriff Reeves, finally seeing the pattern, listened as we laid out the evidence, his skepticism giving way to something closer to resolve. And that's when we decided to stop reacting and start setting a trap. We invited Camilla Price, her son Julian Price, fresh out of law school and dangerously confident, and Marcus Hale to a settlement meeting at a tourist steakhouse, a place full of antlers and polished wood, recording devices legal and hidden, deputies nearby, a local journalist watching from another table, and we let them talk. They offered money, land purchases below market value, vague promises to make things right, and as I asked questions about hunting packages and boundary adjustments, their egos did exactly what egos always do under pressure. They bragged, contradicted each other, admitted knowledge of VIP clients, altered maps, and when I placed a photo of Leonard Cross aiming his rifle at Orion on the table, the room froze. That's when Sheriff Reeves walked in with warrants, calmly announcing that Leonard Cross had already been arrested in New York and was cooperating with federal investigators, that the FBI had been tracking illegal interstate hunting operations, and that their little HOA scheme had just crossed into criminal territory. The shift was instant. Camilla's confidence evaporated. Julian turned pale. Marcus Hale slumped like a man finally realizing the weight of his choices, and as deputies led them out, the restaurant erupted into applause, a spontaneous release of tension I didn't know I was holding. The aftermath was relentless and clean. Convictions for fraud, illegal hunting, abuse of office, prison sentences and fines. The Ravenwood Bluffs Association dismantled and rebuilt under strict transparency rules, and Orion, scarred but alive, returned to the pasture, his limp a permanent reminder that survival doesn't always look like victory. I used the compensation money to start the Orion Fund, helping family ranches fight land encroachment. Mara earned a journalism scholarship on the strength of her documentation, and when a letter arrived from prison containing a begrudging apology from Camilla Price, I framed it beside Orion's championship ribbon, not as revenge, but as closure. Life slowed again, fences repaired, boundaries clearly marked, the creek flowing quietly like it always had. And when visitors ask about the scar on Orion's shoulder, I tell them this story, not because I enjoy reliving it, but because it carries a question worth asking. When powerful people treat land, animals, and families like assets to exploit, and the only way to stop them is to expose and dismantle the systems they hide behind, where does justice end and revenge begin? And if protecting what you love means destroying something someone else built on lies, would you do it? Or would you walk away and let the next family pay the price?